Base44 has been on my radar for a while now, and today I thought I'd put it head to head against Lovable in a 10 prompt challenge to see which is best. By the end of the video, you'll not only see the differences between the platforms, hopefully we'll have a clear winner, but also hopefully get some inspiration from the prompts that we use that you can apply to your own projects. So we're going to be getting both apps to build a website for an AI Challenger Bank today. So I'm going to start by giving both of them our starting prompt. I'll share all of our prompts that we use today in a link in the description below as well. So if any of these you want to kind of take things from or see what I've written, you can go to that link and get all of these in one place. So we can see straight away that both platforms are now going ahead and building the app. So we'll wait for them to come back with something. Okay, so interesting to see Base44 is using React. This is the same as what Lovable uses. It's a good choice. One of the reasons why I quite like Lovable is that it's quite opinionated about the tech stack that it uses. It uses TypeScript, React, and Vite, I believe. And what's good about that tech stack, which it seems like Base44 might be taking the same approach, is that it provides quite tight guardrails that prevent it from going off in lots of directions that could lead to a lot of bugs. One of the limitations of something like Cursor is that it can write in any language, so there's not really much in the way of guardrails preventing it from creating chaos. I just got a ping, which I know is definitely not Lovable, so I think Base44 has got something. It looks like we've got a little loading spinner here, so let's see what it's going to come back with. That's not bad. It's basic. There's nothing too special there. But in terms of the kind of visual aesthetic and look and feel, compared to some of the other tools that I've used, things like Replit, this is looking a little bit closer to what I would expect to come back from Lovable. So let's just give Lovable a second and we'll see how the two compare. Okay, pretty similar. So we've got a few structural differences. We've got more of a kind of sticky menu here. We've got a little bit more content from Lovable. In terms of the look and feel though, there's not a lot in it. They've taken a remarkably similar approach. If I had to pick one or the other, I would probably go for the Lovable one, but it's very much personal preference. There's not really a really strong winner here. So at this point, I'm going to say it's a draw. So next we're going to focus on the nav. I'm going to get both of them to try and create a modern sticky navigation that uses a kind of glass morphism, frosted glass effect with a mega drop-down menu. So let's give that to Lovable, give that to Base44, and see what they both come back with. Okay, right, so Lovable's come back first. So what have we got? I'm just going to close down that sidebar. Okay, that's pretty nice. So we got a few little micro animations, which is nice. It looked as though it had the mobile hamburger. So yeah, that's good. Again, nothing too special. It's hard to see if it's actually done the glass morphism effect. Normally you see sort of like a blur behind it. So I don't know if Lovable's done that quite as I had pictured in my head. Okay, so Base44 has come back with its menu. Let's have a little look. So, oh, there we go. So we've got that kind of frosted glass effect, which is really nice. So Lovable actually didn't do this very well. You can see like we're not getting that blur behind the menu, whereas we are getting that with Base44. That's exactly what I wanted. It's very subtle, but it just makes it look nice and modern, and it's a pretty cool effect. So again, we've got a little micro animation, and I'm going to say that drop-down menu is, the opacity on it is a little bit too low. You can sort of see the text behind it a bit too much. But the effect is pretty nice. Like, I really like how it looks there. Again, they've got the kind of the frosted glass effect to the menu. And these icons are really beautiful. And I like that there's a bit of a gradient in the menu items. So this is really nice. There's a few little oversights like around the opacity. But in general, that's done a pretty good job. I'm just going to check how it looks on mobile. Yeah, that's really nice. I just kind of caught like there was that nice little, how it sort of like fades in, that little micro animation. So this for me is something that I really, really appreciate about Lovable, and looks like Base44 does a good job, is it gets those tiny little details right. In something like Bolt or Replit, it's like pulling teeth trying to get those little like beautiful details. So I'm really happy. I'm going to say Base44 has won that round. Right, so it looks like I'm out of credits on Base44. So that's an illustration of how much you can do on Base44 without paying for it. So I'm just going to go and upgrade this. Let's have a look at what we get. So I'm not sure how many credits that just used, but I'm going to go onto the $16 a month plan and just see how far we get with 100 credits. Let's have a look. Okay, classic SaaS, it's not $16, it's $20 a month if I pay monthly. So let's do that. All right, so now on the starter plan, so I'm gonna go back to the app that I built. So next, we're gonna focus on typography. So I've got a prompt here which basically is encouraging it to choose slightly more interesting font pairings, add subtle text animations on scroll, gradient text effects, etc. So this one should be relatively subtle, but let's see what comes back. Okay, they've both made some changes. I don't love the Lovable one. It's kind of just made the text fatter and used this slightly random teal color. I can see what it's trying to do. It's trying to sort of incorporate like different parts of the gradient, but I don't think it's very elegantly applied. Like it kind of looks a little bit like not the same styling. Yeah, not a big fan of what Lovable's done there. In terms of Base44, this looks a bit more subtle, a little bit nicer. I like how it's using like different, sort of using the gradient a bit more subtly. This text is nice, it's light, it's simple. I think this genuinely looks a little bit better than what we had before. I'm gonna say Base44 has got better, Lovable's got a bit worse. So let's jump over to our next round. So next, let's make some improvements to the hero section. So I'm gonna give them both a prompt to redesign the hero section with a split screen layout that features an animated mock-up of the mobile app. So give that to Lovable and let's give that to Base44 and let's see what comes back. You know, so far I am quite surprised. Generally, pretty much every vibe coding tool that I've used so far has the difference at this point between Lovable and them. Lovable's generally quite a bit better, whereas I'd say at this point, it's leaning a little bit more towards Base44. Okay, so Lovable's come back and it's doing something a little bit janky on the like tablet mobile version. Let's just go a little bit bigger and see. Okay, so that's gonna need a little bit of work on the mobile responsive version, but it's kind of done an okay job. I'm not gonna say that's the nicest mobile animation, but it's sort of technically done what I've asked. This background is like a bit mental. There's some like crazy dot thing. I'm not sure what's going on there. And there's just a few little buggy things, like we've got like these little floating sections behind the app. So I'm not massively impressed with what Lovable's done there. That's gonna need a little bit of like re-prompting to try and get that working a bit better. Let's have a look at Base44. So let me clear that out of the way. So similarly, we've got this like slightly janky view on tablet. So let's give it a bit more space. That's nice. That's really nice. I really like with Base44 what I'm seeing around like the kind of the subtle interactions. Like this is really cool, this kind of typing effect. And this actually looks almost like a mobile app. It could be a lot better. It just looks a bit more modern, a little bit more polished, almost at the level of a UX designer has thought about this, and it's not just like random data. This is nice. Again, some really nice little interactions. I'm really happy with what Base44 has come back with. It could be better, but compared to what Lovable's done, I'm preferring this. So definitely a win for Base44 so far. So next we're gonna pay a bit more attention to these feature cards, the next kind of section. Now, if it were me, I'd probably do kind of left, right sections, but the prompt I'm gonna give it is to make these a little bit more interesting, add some like tilt effects, progress bars, etc. So I'm gonna open the sidebar and give it this prompt to basically just add a bit more interest to. Okay, we've run into our first bug with Base44. So it's found an issue. I'm gonna test the resolve with AI. I do quite like that it's reiterated there that it's not gonna use any credits fixing this. This is something that in Lovable, I am pretty certain that it definitely does use your credits fixing bugs like this. So while we wait for Base44, it looks like Lovable has come back with some changes to the feature cards. So let's have a little look what it's done. Wow, that's intense. It's done what I've asked, but it's not really interpreted it in a very good way. This kind of now looks like every like WordPress template that has these like random things. I have no idea what this bouncing effect is. This is a little bit mad. Not super happy with what Lovable's coming back with. Let's have a look at what we've got from Base44. So good news, it fixed that bug itself. That's great. So we've got a kind of a slight little flip effect, a little bit janky. The progress bars are not really filled. It's okay. It's not quite what I had in mind. I'd say they've both interpreted that fairly, but not exactly as I intended. Okay, so next we're gonna try and add a little bit of data viz to our landing page. So I'm gonna give them both a prompt to add a dynamic dashboard. Let's see what we get. Okay, looks like Base44 has come back with some kind of dashboard. Not quite what I had in mind, but the data viz is quite nice in terms of like the graphing. Like there's definitely a bit of styling going in this. I was kind of imagining more like a laptop screen with like a screenshot on it, but it's kind of just like giving me a few graphs. It's not bad. It looks like, so Lovable's just come back with something pretty similar. However, worth pointing out here that if you look at the quality of the data viz between them, Base44 is definitely nicer. There's nice subtle animation to this one. The gradient is like a nice little subtle effect. Whereas this one kind of just looks like pretty basic, like bootstrap. So again, I'm gonna say Base44 probably wins that round. So next we're gonna add some social proof and testimonials. So let's go back to chat window, drop in the prompt. All right, I just heard a ping, which means Base44 is done. Looks like they're pretty much took about the same amount of time there. So Lovable is done. Let's see what we have got. Here we go. Okay, so we've not got any headshots, but we've got a little carousel for testimonials, and we've got a few. Okay, this is nice. Ooh, I like that that's kind of like triggered on scroll. That's pretty nice. Annoyingly, I can't drag it, or like I have to scroll to see it. So I think we'd have a few like UX issues with that, but it's a nice effect. I like that we've got a few little logos. Again, it looks a little bit basic, just the iconography that it's using, but it's not bad. Let's see what we've got with Base44. That's a little bit better. So it's not that different, like it's the same kind of concept, but again, it's just those little details, the little kind of fade out, fade in, how it's placed the apostrophe is nice. We've got some headshots. This is cool, but not wildly different. They've both taken a pretty similar approach. Like, I think if you ran this prompt like 10 times, you'd probably see like they interchangeably take slightly different variations on this. But in general, if I had to pick between one of them, I'd definitely go for the Base44 option. Right, next we're gonna make some improvements to the footer. And I'm wondering at this point if Lovable is gonna win any round, because pretty much everything so far has come back with Base44 doing a slightly better job. Not by a massive margin, but just slightly better. And this is pretty surprising. I've not seen any vibe coding tool so far that's done a better job than Lovable. Now, it's worth pointing out, I guess, that what we're building here is quite simple. This is just like a one-page landing page. In Lovable, I have been able to build like entire SaaS apps with databases and email triggering and like pretty complex integrations. So I'm not sure if when we started to add a bit more complexity, if Base44 might have some issues, but at least so far from a UX and stylistic perspective, it's pretty impressive. Right, Base44 now has a footer. Let's see what we have got. Fine, nothing impressive, but also nothing bad. We've got a little kind of slightly weird animation to that. I don't love that. Got a newsletter thing. Again, yeah, fine, nothing impressive. But now, compared to Lovable, that is not quite so nice. You know, it just kind of looks like it was built like 5-6 years earlier than the other. Like it's just, or by like a designer who's just not quite got that eye to design. And it really surprises me to say this because everything that I've built so far in Lovable has been beautiful. So you really see the difference when you kind of do this side-by-side testing where you give it the same prompt. You just see it's those little details that really make a difference. Now we're going to look at mobile optimization. Now both of these look pretty fine on mobile. I'd say there's a few little issues with the Lovable one, like the titles getting covered by the nav. The Base44 one is pretty perfect, to be fair. There's not a huge amount on there that obviously needs fixing. But I'm going to give it a prompt to add some offline features, get it ready to be a progressive web app, and just make sure kind of all the tap targets, swipe gestures, all that sort of stuff is all working well. So this one might be a little bit trickier to test because I'm not testing it on an actual mobile device. We're just using a mobile viewport here. But let's see. I'm curious to see whether it also goes off script and makes other changes. I actually get into the habit of whenever I write a prompt, normally I'll add at the end, only change this and don't change anything else, because often it will go off and make, change button colors and random things that you've not asked for. It becomes a bigger problem the bigger the project gets, especially if you've not done much in the way of refactoring. Right, so Lovable is doing something with a capacitor integration. No idea what that is. Interesting. So Base44 has come back and said that PWA features like offline messaging is going to require access to service workers, server configurations. It's not going to access that. That's totally understandable. So in some respects, that's kind of a little bit of a curveball. I'd be impressed if Lovable can do that. This is new, so we've now got a little kind of jump to top. Visually, I'm not seeing anything else massively different. Maybe it's kind of collapsing things a little bit better. Okay, things like this I think are in the footer. I think that might be a little bit different. As I said before, the Base44 one was already pretty well optimized for mobile. Personally, I'd make some little changes, like I'd make these buttons like full width, or at least the same width and center aligned. Arguably, that's kind of in the realms of personal preference. I'm curious to see on Base44, is there a list of changes that it's actually made? So it said the testimonial carousel is now swipeable. Okay, good. Let's just see if I can do that. Yeah, cool. Okay, oh, that's a nice little interaction. Footer links collapse into a sleek accordion, so we just saw that. That's a nice touch. All interactions are designed to be touch friendly, providing great. Okay. So a lot of the changes it might have made, for example, is like just making sure like the distance between things is not too close, that like you kind of, if you've got fat fingers, you're sort of pressing the thing that you don't want. Okay, so Lovable has come back with an error. I think the reason why is it's tried to go ahead and configure the PWA. Looks like that might be what it's done, and that's not going to work. So where Base44 kind of caught that error and told us that it can't do that and ignored it, I believe Lovable has had a go trying to do it. So surprisingly, Lovable's not actually come back and said, do you want me to fix this? Normally there's a big like button here you can click where it will have a go at debugging. So I'm gonna have to tell it, please fix this error. Now, my general rule of thumb is I'll do this 3, maybe 4 times. If the vibe coding tool is not gonna fix the issue within 3 or 4 attempts, there's kind of no hope that it's ever going to, so we then have to revert and go back and change the prompt. But I'd say 80% of the time you can just say, please fix it, and it'll often find the error, make the change, and sort it out. Okay, it's found the error. Trying to use mobile features current feature icon directly in a JSX component, which isn't valid syntax. Okay, so that should actually, that's not the PWA issue I thought it was. If that's the only issue, that should be a pretty simple little fix. Okay, perfect. So that did seem to fix the issue. So now let's have a look at what it's done to improve mobile friendliness. Okay, it looks like it's put the cards into little accordions. So that's okay. Again, I don't love the icons. I don't love the bullet points. It's a little bit basic. This all looks like it's been slightly tidied up just in terms of alignment and spacing, but it's not fix this, and we've still got text going off screen. It's not swipeable. This is not swipeable. That's going to be really weird on a mobile device, and it's not done anything on the footer. So it's not really made an awful lot of improvements, and we've still got some pretty massive glaring issues like the title being beneath the header. So again, not massively impressed with what Lovable's come back with. Now, in the next round, we're going to specifically ask to add some more micro interactions. Now, as we've seen with Base44, Base44 has added quite a lot already without us asking. So we're asking for things like little hover states, loading animations, smooth page transitions, scroll triggered animations, etc. Ooh. So you saw how that text all kind of came in there? I think that's a new little thing. That seemed like quite a nice little animation. I can't even tell if there's an animation. Oh yeah, there's a really, really subtle hover effect on that button. But you can see like the icon enlarges slightly when we hover. So this has gone really, really subtle, but that's nice. I like how the text kind of fades in now. That's quite, yeah, that's really nice and subtle. But we do now have hover effects, which is nice. Not on here, I was kind of hoping we might get something here. Yeah, so links now have a little kind of subtle hover. Base44 has kind of taken this pretty much as I'd hope. Like these are really, really micro animations, very, very subtle. But again, it's these little things that really make a big difference. Okay, so Lovable has come back. We have this random little thing now firing into the middle of the screen. That is entirely not what I meant by micro animations. That is an incredibly obnoxious animation. So, wow, this is radioactive and we have explosions going on down here. I don't know what the hell Lovable is on today, but this is insane. Not in a good way. So, wow, I don't know what to say. This is absolutely mad. That's a pretty clear win for me for Base44. Normally, the more that we prompt a vibe coding tool, the better the website gets. And we're kind of seeing that with Base44. Like, it is improving. It still kind of looks a little templatey, but it is getting better. This Lovable one is just getting absolutely nuts. So I have no idea what's going on here. Finally, for our last prompt, we're gonna make some performance and accessibility improvements. Now, the Lovable one needs all the help it can get. So this is a highly inaccessible website right now. So we're adding things like cookie consent, making sure it kind of adheres to all the kind of major accessibility guidelines, and things like lazy loading images, just little things that are gonna add little kind of performance improvements to the website. Okay, Base44 has finished. Okay, that's a really nice little cookie consent thing. Whether it's compliant, who knows, but it's done its thing. And we've got this little dark light mode toggle. It's just got 2 different shades of dark mode. So it doesn't actually work, which is a bit of a shame. It just changes it from grey to black, which I don't mind. I'm a big fan of dark mode. Maybe this is sort of taking like a Scandinavian approach where like daylight is still pretty dark. It's done some things, not totally executed how I would have hoped. Now, what fun and games have we got from Lovable? So we have got a cookie consent, and this one has a customization button that goes nowhere. You click it and nothing happens. You just get this like tapping sound from the Mac. So, oh, brilliant. You can't even accept the cookies. Wow, this is wild. Right, can I cancel it? No, it's there permanently. This is just part of the experience now. You just get to enjoy the cookie banner. Have we got a dark mode? Does nothing. Wow. Now, if we put these side to side, we've got a pretty clear winner here. I think the Base44 version was better on pretty much every round there. And this has given us something that is, it's templatey, but it's still, I think, given us like a pretty good starting point that we could work from. Whereas the Lovable one has had a weird day. It's given us some random features. It's not particularly great. I don't feel this is a particularly good representation of what Lovable can do. I've seen Lovable do some incredible landing pages and build like entire SaaS tools. So I know Lovable can do better than this, but at the same time, the 10 prompt challenge doesn't lie. Base44 has done a much better job than Lovable, in my opinion. Now, if you want to get the 10 prompts that I used, I'll drop a link in the description below where you can get them. And if you want to see an example of Lovable not going absolutely mad,